Hey YouTube, this is PokéCastXVll here, and I guess in my previous videos I've kind of mentioned that I'm more of a competitive player than a collector. But even though I do collect, because a lot of my content is on my channel is things like booster box openings, pack openings and tins and etc. So I guess in this video I want to do something more in the light of the competitive nature. And so I've actually got a couple I've got a couple of recorded games on TCG Online, and it's testing a card that's come out of the Next Destiny set, which I particularly liked but hasn't been receiving as much hype as I think it deserves, and that is Reshiram EX. So yeah, so here's the first game. So it kind of starts out with my opponent having to mulligan, which is good because I get to see his hand and kind of see what he's running. So looking at my hand, it's not really too much in there. I kind of need the collector at this point to sort of start getting set up. Okay, so I draw for the mulligan, which is a rare candy, which is kind of useless, but oh well. Okay, so I always usually choose heads just for consistency, but he chooses heads this time and actually calls it right. So yeah, so he opens up with a Brotom, and I can kind of already guess what he's playing at this point. So perhaps I don't need the collector as much as I thought I did. But yeah, so he plays a collector. So he's searching through his deck at this point, seeing assumably he's going to get his Durants out. Okay, so he actually gets two Durants and a Pichu, which I was kind of a bit lost as to why he's playing Pichu in there, but okay, so he benches a Durant. Okay, seemingly he's going to promote the Pichu. Yeah, so he promotes the Pichu, and the only thing that I can think of, I guess the reason why he might have done this is just because he doesn't have an energy in there, so maybe Pichu's kind of a backup or something like that. Okay, so he gets two Durants. Okay, so it's asking me if I want to use Playground, which I'm not sure if that's a trick question or not, because obviously if I bring High Retreaters to the bench, it'll instantly become a target for Pokemon Catcher. So I'm contemplating what I want. I need a beat stick, so I go with the Reshiram EX, and Victini, knowing that the Skyra Bridge is in play, and a Cleffa. So the reason why I can't use Reshiram is because obviously with the energies discard, it's not a consistent attacker, so I kind of need the Reshiram EX. Alright, so I do get the collector, which is kind of annoying, but okay, so attach the energy. Okay, I think I was contemplating whether to use Pokemon Catcher at this point, which I decided against in the end. Okay, so Professor Oak. Okay, so switch out. Yeah, use a switch and bring Reshiram EX forward. And that's it. So I'm needing a double colorless energy at this point to start attacking with the Reshiram, and with the Durants having a weakness of fire, I think I only really need 100 damage to knock him out. Okay, so he does have the energy, he gets a special metal, and attached it to the Durant. Oh, if you're wondering why you didn't see a Mewtwo EX in when the Pichu hit the Playground, I'm just strictly testing this deck at the moment without the Mewtwo EX at the moment, just to see how it kind of plays out at the moment. So far it's doing okay. Oh, I should probably mention that I'm also running the ReshiBoar instead of Reshiflosion, so okay, so fortunately I did manage to get a double colorless energy, which should set me off on my way. I don't really want to bench a Tepig. Okay, so Victini asked me if I want to use Victory Star, which is not going to make much of a difference, but I guess I might as well use it. Okay, and yeah, so I'm in a pretty good situation here. I've already taken one prize, and if the Loss Remover does hit my my Reshiram EX, I can just put the double colorless attachment onto it again, because I already have one in my hand. Okay, so Professor Oaks. Okay, let's see what he does here. waiting. Just gonna make a move. Oh, and he just scoops. Right, so I did kind of acknowledge that that one was a little bit short, so I managed to get another game which was it actually went on for a bit longer, and it was a full game, so yeah, so okay, so I've got 2 Reshiram EX as starters. Okay, so it doesn't look like I'm going to get donked, so that's good. Okay, so I've got the collector in hand as well, so I can hit that on turn 1. Okay, unfortunately they go first again, which is kind of annoying. Okay, so I see the Minccino, and I'm kind of thinking, what deck is it at the moment? I noticed it has a call for family, so I imagine they'll probably be wanting to perhaps use it to bench some more Pokemon, and so they use Bianca. Okay, so they play Kyurem EX, so which is what I kind of ideally wanted, because I wanted to see how Reshiram EX copes with things with other EXs, especially Kyurem, because it's definitely a setback, and obviously with the weakness. Okay, and then they use Call for Family to get the normal Kyurem out. Alright, so I hit the collector, and okay, so I'm wanting a Tepig, a Victini, and I think I was contemplating between the Cleffa and the Reshiram. I was just about to click the OK button there, but I changed my mind in the end, because obviously if she runs anything like Feraligatr Prime or any form of energy acceleration with Kyurem, obviously it can glaciate and knock out my Cleffa, so that's why I resisted the temptation of getting Cleffa to my hand. Okay, so I bench all 3 of those. Okay, so ideally next turn I'd like a rare candy so I can use a heavy ball and then get an Emboar. Okay, let's see what they do. Okay, so attach the Water Energy onto the Kyurem. So not only does Kyurem, okay, so they play a Terrakion onto the bench. Okay, so I didn't get the rare candy, but I got the Emboar, which is kind of annoying. Okay, so use a heavy ball. I'm going to have to, at this point, manually go through the stages. And yeah, just go through to Pignite to Emboar. But yeah, the reason why I guess Kyurem's a big setback, Kyurem EX is quite a big setback onto to Reshiram EX, is because obviously with the weakness, and on top of that it can discard a special energy attached, and I quite heavily rely on double colours energies to get Reshiram EX going. Saying I don't have like Emboars on the bench. Okay, so attach it onto the active Reshiram, and I'm kind of thinking at this point, did I make a mistake? Perhaps maybe I should have put it onto the bench, but I guess it's kind of good for me to do these kind of games, because I mean, you guys can comment as to maybe something that you would have done that I didn't do, or just see my general thought process. So yeah, I was kind of checking at this point the energy requirements. Okay, so luckily it didn't prove to be too costly. Okay, so knowingly that I've got 4 Junk Arms and 2 Emboars, I'm quite likely to draw. Okay, so I did draw an Emboar out, which that's why I played a hand refreshment last turn, just because I knew the chances were quite likely that I would draw an Emboar or something to get an Emboar out. But no energies, which is a little bit annoying. But on the flip side, I do have 2 Silence in hand as well, so I'm all prepared for next turn. Let's just see what they do. Okay, so they actually switch out for the Kyurem EX, which is annoying because they're going to discard the special, or the double colours energy off me, and they evolve the Minccino into a Cinccino. Okay, so I'm weighing up my my options at this point. I'm trying to think a few turns ahead. So so ideally, what I'd be looking at as such is I need to do damage to the Reshiram EX to then put it in knockout range for a normal Reshiram, because obviously I don't want to commit another Reshiram EX. But looking at their bench, I imagine I'd probably, once that's knocked out, bring forth their Terrakion. So, I mean, if they retaliate onto a normal Reshiram, that's absolutely fine, because I can then just use the outrage attacks for plenty of damage. But if they retaliate back onto Reshiram EX, then that's a little bit different, because obviously taking 2 prize is huge. So, yeah, so I'm looking to do 80 damage by this point, knowing that I have the silent in hand and I can then return the KO. Okay, so for some reason at this point Victory Star doesn't work, which is kind of annoying. Okay, so I'm looking at the damage output and it's got 50 damage on it, so that means it's 130 short. So let's see what they do. Okay, so they power up the Terrakion knowing that that's going to get knocked out. So yeah, so they knock out the Reshiram EX. Okay, so just check the field. Okay, so I'm just calculating the damage output at this point. I know it's 130 short, and I can see I've got a junk card in my hand for the plus power. And also I've got a silent as well, so I can get the energies I need to attach onto the Reshiram and then get the return, well, knock it out. Yeah, so I'm just checking my discard pile here, knowing that I have a revive in my hand, just because I wasn't too sure what I should throw away with the junk arm, and I thought the revive was quite valuable at this point, so that's why I decided to keep it. Okay, so we get the plus power back and use the plus power, and then with the energy attachment it leaves me with 1 card in hand, but that's alright because the 1 card I have is a Professor Oak. So that gives me a hand replenish for next turn, and on top of that I'll be taking 2 prizes and drawing 1 more card, so I look to be okay at this point. So I'll be able to match my opponent on prizes as well. So we get 2 prizes, so a collector, which isn't great, and a rare candy, which is even worse. So yeah, not the best 2 prizes, and especially with having the Professor Oak in hand, I don't really want to put those 2 cards back in my deck. Yeah, so as predicted, they bring forth Terrakion. And as you can see, I guess in the title where I put Game 2 and Reshiram, I kind of put a little question mark because I'm not really sure what to call this deck. It's kind of a rogue kind of deck, but it runs Reshiram's, or yeah, I was kind of confused as to what to call it, so I just went with Reshiram in the end. But yeah, just saw a Haxorus there, so it's okay, and they obviously play Lucario as well. Okay, so they hit the Silent, and okay, get 3 water energy. So I'm not too sure what they'd be powering up at this point. Okay, so the retaliate as okay, so Professor Juniper, which is great because I don't want to put any of those cards, by the exception of the Professor Oak, back into my deck. But yeah, they retaliate onto my Reshiram, which is fine because should have enough damage for the for outrage. Okay, and here I believe is where I might have slipped up a little bit. I'm not too sure. Let's watch. Okay, so I don't bench the Cleffa because of the Glaciate. Okay, so I think at this point I was contemplating using the catcher and the plus power for the knockout on the Kyurem. But I also acknowledged the fact that I had no form of support or energy attachment, so I kind of needed to kind of set myself up for next turn. So I think that's why I went with one energy attachment on the Reshiram, just so I had something else to kind of fall back onto. And yes, I was also thinking at this point, unless he has a switch, he doesn't really have any means of retreating that Kyurem. But let's see. Okay, so to get Lucario out. I think when I was actually playing this game out, I didn't actually know what Lucario what it did. I soon later found out, but okay, so just reading ahead of the game, I imagine if I use Outrage and knock out the Kyurem, they'll probably promote the Terrakion for the knockout back. So just trying to read ahead, see. Okay, so I kind of benched the Cleffa knowing that I'm going to knock out the Kyurem as well. Okay, so now I've set that up so that if they do promote the Terrakion, I can knock the Terrakion back out in one shot. And I don't think there's anything else I really need to do at this point. Okay, so Outrage for the knockout. And so now I'm ahead in prizes. So although the collector isn't great, it does give me something to throw away with Junk Arm. Okay, so the Azorosphere, which I believe is knockout. Okay, and they put damage onto my Reshiram. Okay, so yeah, so they actually promoted the Lucario instead of the Terrakion. So just set up this this Reshiram, and I can Junk Arm at this point for the catcher to bring up the Terrakion, because I think that's what they were kind of hoping to use a Terrakion as a backup. Okay, so let's get the catcher out. Okay, take out the Terrakion and just Brave Bird. Sorry, Brave Fire. Okay, so this is where the system kind of messes up again, because obviously at that point I'd want to be using Victory Star, but unfortunately it's not letting me use it, which is kind of annoying. Okay, so they're going for Aurasphere again. Yeah, and they're doing damage to my Cleffa. So the Cleffa is only 10 short from being knocked out. Okay, so using Inferno Fandango to put the energy on the bench Reshiram. Okay, and then just go for, yeah. Okay, so they both get knocked out, which is kind of annoying. Especially seeing as it didn't let me use the victory star. But luckily I put the energy attachment onto the bench Kyurem, the benched Reshiram even. Okay, and I actually get an energy retrieval, which is probably the best top I could probably ask for at this situation, because it now means that I can just deal 150 damage for the win. And I don't have to worry about Victory Star either, because obviously it's untouched, so yeah. So I deal 150 damage at this point, and the Cinccino is knocked out. Now I take my last prize, which was a double colour energy. So yeah, there you have it, guys. Definitely comment below on what you kind of think of these videos and whether I should probably do a bit more of them, maybe with different decks. I know I've still got Duran, I can probably build like a couple more or whatever. Or maybe even test this deck out with Mewtwo EX, see how that works. So yeah, so definitely comment or give your thoughts and maybe other things that maybe I should have done during the game or whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.